Hey Lindsay, Jordan here. It's nice to hear from you. Let's check out this problem, and this one is a dandy for sure. And before we get into that, I know you asked about LCDs and all that stuff. Let's just make up an example for a minute. Let's say I have 1 over 16. I don't know. I'm just making this up. Plus 2 over 30, for lack of a better term. And let's find the LCD here. Okay. Let's deal with numbers first before we deal with this craziness. So the fail-safe way always for an LCD is let's factor both of these numbers completely. So we're kind of doing like a little product of primes or a factor tree. Might be some special terms that you might come across. So 4 and 4 are 16, and let's take it right to prime. 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. And 30, let's do 15 and 2, and then 15 breaks down into 3 times 5 times the 2 will carry down. Okay? And then to come up with the LCD, we're going to include all the numbers from one set without the duplicates of another one. So what that means is I'm going to include this 2, this 2, this 2, and this 2. I'm going to include this 3 because it's new, and this 5. I'm not going to include the last 2 because I already have 1 2. Now if I had 2 2's over here, I wouldn't include that 2 either. Now what we do is we take all those numbers, we multiply them together. Okay, so 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 is 16, we know that, times 3 times 5, and there's our LCD, 240. What this means is 240 is the lowest number that both 30 and 16 will evenly divide into. Okay, or it can be evenly divided by each of those numbers. Each of those numbers will multiply in. So that's the LCD, that's the trick. Factor everything completely and then kind of stick them together without some overlap. If it appears twice, you don't include it. Let's take a look at this now, and I'm really just talking about the denominators here and here. So if we look at this factored completely, we have 5 times x plus h squared, and we have 5 times x squared. So each of these are a factor. Here's one factor. Here's another factor. Here's our third factor. And I'll do yellow again. Here's our fourth factor. These are all factors, they're numbers multiplied together. That's what a factor means. So when we're coming up with the LCD is going to be 5 times, x squared. I'm just going to write the x squared already, just to be consistent, times x minus h squared. This 5 is already used here, so I'm not going to include that. Okay, so here's our LCD. It's the same play. So whether we're dealing with numbers or whether we're dealing with algebra or rational expressions in this case, factor everything completely and then just stick them all together, but eliminate any redundancies. And what I mean by that is if you have 5 once, don't include the second 5. That's all we're talking about here. So we found the LCD to this, which is great. So now we're really ready to get in and do all of this stuff. So I'm going to write this down. What I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply. Let me erase my mess over here. So I'll outline what we're going to do. I'm going to take the LCD and I'm going to multiply it by each term. So we have this term right here, we have this term right here, and we have this term down here. So I'm going to multiply the LCD by each of those terms like this. Okay, that's kind of our solution map. And again, we know the LCD is 5x squared times x plus h squared. Okay? So let's do that. So I'm just going to write down our first term right here. I have 6 over 5 times x plus h squared. And I'm going to just multiply that. I'm just going to write this in now with our LCD. 5x squared, x plus h squared. Minus our second term, which is going to be 6 over 5x squared, again, times our LCD. H squared. You get the idea, I hope. All of that is over h, which is also going to be multiplied by 5x squared times x plus h squared. All right. So that's a mess to look at, and I'm going to need some more room. There we go, finally. So what can we do? Well, we have a 5 here and a 5 down here. That's gone. We have an x plus h squared and an x plus h squared, so that's gone. What I'm left with is 6 times x squared. So that's 6x squared. So you can see we're getting rid of some of these fractions. Okay, now let's do the same thing over here. I have a minus sign. Sorry about that. Pen always jumps when I switch pages. So I have a minus sign right there. And now we'll do the same thing. 5x squared and 5x squared is gone. I'm left with 6 times x plus h squared. Down here in the denominator, I have h times all of that, which I'll leave it like this for now. X plus h squared. I have that whole mess going on. Okay, so let's try to simplify this now, I guess, because I don't really know what x is, so we're just going to simplify anyway. I'm going to take this minus 6. Remember, we're always watching for negatives. And I'm going to distribute that after I FOIL it. Right, we've got to do the FOIL thing because I have a binomial squared right here. So let's go ahead and do that. 6x squared minus 6 times, now what we're doing, and I'll just write it up here, x plus h times x plus h. So let's FOIL that out. That's going to be x squared plus 2xh plus h squared. Okay, I skipped the middle step there. I'm just foiling it first, outside, inside, and last. And I combine the like terms for the two middle ones. And that's still over all of this mess. H over 5x squared. Blah, blah, blah. Change my color because I'm bored looking at red. Let's go with green. Now I'll take minus 6 and I will distribute. So I have 6x squared minus 6x squared, which is gone anyway. And I have minus 6 times 2, so that's going to be minus 12. Minus 12xh. Minus 6 times h squared is going to be minus 6h squared. All over our messy denominator. Now, we have some like terms. Those are gone anyway, so we'll just cancel, we'll get rid of those. And nothing really else we can do, except I need another page again. So let me just rewrite what we have a little bit. I have negative 12. It always skips. That's the bane of my existence. Over. That's squared over h times 5x squared x plus h squared. Leaving everything factored. So, I mean, this is essentially it. We can simplify it a little bit more because I have an h term here and here. And I have some common numbers here. So let's factor the numerator and maybe we can cancel some stuff. So let's cancel out minus 6. And when I do that, that's going to be 2. Let's go minus 6h, because that's in there as well. So that's going to be 2x minus h. And then that's over all of this, h times 5x squared, x plus h squared. So our h's cancel. Let's go back to the red. That's gone. So we're left with negative 6 times 2x minus h over 5x squared x plus h. So there you go, that's essentially it. One thing, that should be a plus. I messed that up there. I didn't catch that. Remember, because I factored out a negative, where are we at? Because I factored out a negative 6, right? That should be a plus because negative 6 times h would give me negative 6h. So there it is. Nasty one. Take your time, make sure you enter your answer correctly, hit the fraction button first in MyMathLab, and make sure you don't miss any of your exponents and brackets and all that stuff. But I hope that helps.